Currently, it's the family photo, which includes the heads of state, taking place. When that has been taken, we'll request that the governors and the special guests exit through their left and leave the heads of state for a family photo of the heads of states who are present. So currently, we have the family photo, which includes the governors and the special guests, inclusive of the heads of state. Once that photo is done at the indication of the chief photographer, we shall then request that the special guests, together with the governors, exit to the left as they proceed to their seat, so that we'll have one more photo of the heads of state who are present. So just waiting for an indication. Kindly, let's have the governors and the special guests exit. If we can kindly guide them to exit through the left and leave the heads of state for a family photo of the heads of state. So governors and special guests, kindly exit through the left, and we leave the heads of state for a family photo. So currently, we have the special guests and the governors exiting the photo booth, if we may call it that, and we'll have the heads of state left to take a photo, a family photo of the heads of state who are present. Your Excellencies, thank you for gracing the occasion. We are indeed honored to have you in the room. And once we have the heads of state ready, we'll count down for the photo so that they'll all be set and ready. But I'm currently waiting for the stage to be clear and an indication from the photographers that we are ready for the family photo for the presidents, their excellencies, your excellencies. Then from there, we'll proceed with the rest of the program. In terms of how we are going to start the program, once we've taken our positions, we'll have two anthems that are going to be played. We'll have the Kenyan national anthem, followed by the African Union anthem before we proceed with the rest of the program. For now, we have the photo for the heads of state taking place. And we'll count down in 3, 2, 1, smile. Wonderful smiles there from the presidents. Thank you, Your Excellencies. And with that, we'll kindly request that photographers clear, that we may have the heads of state take their positions as guided and ushered by the Chief of Protocol. And I'll request that we all be upstanding kindly. As mentioned, we will start with two anthems, starting with the Kenyan national anthem, followed by the African Union anthem. So I'll kindly request that we remain standing. Let's please clear the front. Let's please clear the front, photographers. We love your work, but we kindly request that you clear the front completely so that we may proceed with the anthems. Kindly, let's clear the front. Kindly, I request that we clear the front completely so that we may proceed with the anthems. Former President, His Excellency Chisano, kindly your seat is right here in front, if you may progress to come this way. And for now, with all of us standing, we'll start with the Kenyan national anthem, followed by the African Union anthem, the Kenyan anthem. Let us kindly take our seats. It is now my honor to invite the Secretary General of the Africa Development Bank, Professor Vincent Nemele, to give the necessary protocols and also guide the program. Why don't we put our hands together as we welcome Professor Vincent Nemele to take over the program. Welcome, sir.
His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya. His Excellency Mr. Denis Sassou Nguesso, President of the Republic of Congo. His Excellency Mr. Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, who will be with us very shortly. His Excellency Mr. Emerson Mnangagwa, President of the Republic of Zimbabwe. His Excellency Mr. Mohamed Yunus Menfi, President of the Presidential Council of the State of Libya. His Excellency Mr. Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud, President of the Republic of Somalia. His Excellency Mr. Prosper Bazombanza, Vice President of the Republic of Burundi, representing His Excellency Mr. Evariste Ndayishimiye, President of the Republic of Burundi. Her Excellency Ms. Sarah Kungongelwa Amadila, Prime Minister of the Republic of Namibia. His Excellency Mr. Ali Lamin Zain, Prime Minister of the Republic of Niger. His Excellency Mr. Alexandre Barrow Chambrier, Vice Prime Minister of the Republic of Gabon. Honorable Suarez Sambu, Minister of Economy, Planning and Integration of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau, representing His Excellency Mr. Omaro Sissoko Embalo, President of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau. Mr. Mateus Magala, Minister for Transport and Communication of the Republic of Mozambique, representing His Excellency Mr. Felipe Jacinto Nyusi, President of the Republic of Mozambique. His Excellency Mr. Musa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission. His Excellency Mr. Joaquim Alberto Chisano, former President of the Republic of Mozambique. His Excellency Mr. Jakaya Kikwete, former President of the United Republic of Tanzania. Honorable Professor Njunguna Ndungu, Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Economic Planning, and AFDB Governor and Chairperson of the Boards of Governors of the African Development Bank Group. Dr. Akinwumi A. Adesina, President of the African Development Bank Group. Honorable Governors of the African Development Bank Group, alternate governors of the African Development Bank Group, senior officials of the Republic of Kenya, heads of regional communities and financial institutions, members of the diplomatic corps, executive directors of the African Development Bank Group, senior managements and staff of the African Development Bank Group, media houses, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Vincent Mehele, Secretary General of the African Development Bank Group. I will be facilitating this opening ceremony. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the 2024 annual meetings of the Boards of Governors of the African Development Bank Group. Also, the annual meeting of the African Development Bank, African Development Fund in this beautiful city of Nairobi, also fondly known as the Green City in the Sun. The annual meetings this year are significant in that they flag off the commemoration of the 60th anniversary of the African Development Bank. On this auspicious occasion of the annual meetings, as our shareholders meet once again to take stock of the bank group's activities and performance and to make decisions, I would like to express our profound gratitude to you all for kindly and favorably responding to our invitation. There is a lot in store for everyone during this week, as you will notice from the lineup of knowledge events, numerous side events, social and hospitality events. Before we delve into the heart of the event, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to convey our deepest, and I mean deepest and sincere appreciation to the Honorable Professor Njunguna Ndungu, Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and Economic Planning, AFDB Governor and Chairperson of the Boards of Governors, for his sterling work and dedication during his tenure at the helm of affairs of the bank's highest decision-making body, and for ensuring that Kenya, as host, held nothing back in ensuring that we had very successful annual meetings. Please join me to thank him. Honorable Governor, we thank you and appreciate your relentless efforts and great support. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this year's annual meeting is Africa's Transformation, the African Development Bank Group, and the reform of the global financial architecture. It is therefore our hope that the deliberations today will provide answers to the difficult questions embedded in the theme. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, without much further ado, I'd like to present the program of the opening ceremony. We will have a welcome statement by the chairperson of the Boards of Governors of the African Development Bank Group, Honorable Professor Njunguna Ndungu. After that, we will have an opening video for the annual meetings. And that will be followed by the keynote speech of the President of the African Development Bank, President Akinwumi A. Adesina. After that, we will have a statement by His Excellency Mr. Musa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission. And then we will play the video by the host country and then crown it all up by the opening address of His Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my privilege and honor to call upon the Honorable Professor Njuguna Ndungu, Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and Economic Planning, AFDB Governor for Kenya, and the Chairperson of the Board of Governors of the African Development Bank Group, to deliver his welcome statement. Mr. Chairman.
Your Excellencies, fellow governors, Commissioner of the African Union Commission, honorable ministers and governors of the African Development Bank Group, heads of international, bilateral, and regional financial institutions, distinguished guests, good morning. On behalf of the Kenya government and Chair of the African Development Bank Boards of Governors, allow me to take this opportunity to welcome you all to Nairobi for the 59th annual meetings of the African Development Bank Group. These meetings are being held closely after the recent meetings of the World Bank's IDA 21 Replenishment Summit that the government of Kenya was privileged to host, and His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, is a champion. I'm therefore delighted to welcome you back here at home in Nairobi. First, I want to begin by expressing our deepest appreciation for the warm and cordial relationship that exists between the African continent and our premier development bank, the African Development Bank. The African Development Bank mandate remains relevant and important to the African continent as it supports a wide range of development activities that have supported in many ways the process towards economic vibrancy, economic growth, job creation, improved incomes, and better living conditions for the Africans and the African economies. We wish to reassure the bank of our continued commitment to this fruitful partnership and collaboration. Allow me also to convey my appreciation to the bank group for delivering a very relevant theme for this year's annual meetings, which is Africa's transformation, African Development Bank Group, and reform of the global financial architecture. This resonates quite well with the current global agenda and discourse on the need to reform the global financial architecture to be responsive to the dynamic needs of our continent. I'm glad that the annual meetings includes high-level plenary session for the launch of the bank's flagship publication, the 2024 African Economic Outlook, a presidential dialogue and thematic knowledge events on the theme. And this provides us with a unique opportunity to address Africa's challenges and opportunities at the highest decision-making levels. Consistent with the theme of the annual meetings, the focus of the knowledge event aims to fast-track structural transformation in Africa. This is a panacea to faster socioeconomic transformation, in addition to addressing the importance of reconfiguring global financial architecture as an engine for structural transformation. It is comforting to note that the bank's group's contribution towards Africa's socioeconomic transformation in 60 years of existence, especially on infrastructure, has been such monumental, with a significant and important mark in spite of the limited level of resources when compared to other global multilateral development institutions. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we reaffirm our strong support to the African Development Bank, I urge colleague governors to deepen their discussions around the increase of the general callable capital. This will protect the bank's AAA rating on a sustainable basis against recurrent external shocks, including downgrade of its AAA-rated shareholders. This will enable the bank to maintain its rating trajectory and preserve its position as a strategic lender and the premier development finance institutions in Africa. But above all, reform that is consistent with the theme of the 2024 annual meetings. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in the midst of the global and even regional challenges, we have opportunities to reboot our policy framework and efforts to develop a more competitive and integrated economies in Africa that will attract greater investment. I therefore urge all of us to seize the opportunities provided during the annual meetings to bring forward practical policy discussions for collective efforts in terms of mutual dialogue, stronger partnership, effective joint coordination for the realization of the African Economic Development Agenda. With these remarks, I wish all of you fruitful discussions and present stay in Nairobi, Kenya, which has many rich offerings outside your formal sessions that I would like to invite you to sample. Asante sana. Thank you very much.
With those welcoming words of our chairperson, I'd like to introduce the 2020 annual meeting opening video. Please cue the video.
With all the minerals we have, oil, gas, metals, forest resources, carbon resources, and everything that we have, it's indefensible that Africa is poor. And I think that the wealth of Africa has been undervalued in many, many ways.
Africa has the potential to drive global emissions down and grow sustainably as the world transitions towards renewable energy. Africa hosts the world's largest green energy sources, including solar, wind, hydropower, and geothermal. But Africa loses $7 to $15 billion a year from adverse climate conditions. The continent only accounts for 3% of global emissions, but receives about 3% of global climate financing. Africa receives only 0.5% of global development aid to fight against poverty, and African countries pay up to 5 times more in financing than most developed countries. Simply put, the cost of debt is drying up Africa's economic growth. Is it fair? To achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, the African Union's Agenda 2063 and the African Development Bank's High 5 priorities, the global financial architecture needs to be reformed. If we choose transformative, new and right actions, if the global community starts accounting for the natural untapped capital owned by a country as a share of its GDP, African countries in particular would be able to access more affordable financing and better credit ratings. If the world simplifies global climate finance systems, it would increase access to global climate aid for the African countries that need it the most. If domestic resources are not used to pay the cost of debt, Africa could accelerate industrialization and develop green energies as industries. To do so, multilateral development banks have a critical role to play.
The African Development Bank initiative to rechannel SDRs to multilateral development banks could multiply their impact by 5.
We are now working with my brother of the African Development Bank to make it possible for regional development banks to use SDRs as hybrid capital.
Maybe we might consider even changing the name of that SDR to supporting development revitalization. It's a different way of SDR, but it works also for us.
The forthcoming 17th replenishment of the ADF should be doubled to 25 billion per replenishment cycle, thereby facilitating greater levels of concessional financing to its 37 low-income member countries.
And when we say we want to deconstruct the risk that makes the lending to the Global South prohibitively expensive as compared to lending in the Global North, then I think we know what we mean.
We are not talking about charity. Ultimately, the reforms to the international financial institutions will benefit all of us.
We need to turn ifs into realities for the multilateral development banks to finance even more transformative, innovative, and sustainable projects. It is to the African Development Bank Group's credit that it has tangibly supported more than 5,400 projects in 60 years and in the process improved the lives of millions of people.
Je suis très heureux parce que je sais que mes amis, mes descendants, mes enfants, tout le monde va passer sur ce pont. Et ça rallie tout Abidjan. La Y4 est ouverte, le tunnel d'Abobo est ouvert, le canal est ouvert.
On va aussi au tsunami. On sort un panneau soleil. Et on sort one. Ici à Ehonos. Yemi Kuna. Yemi Lena.
I'm very happy because this time I'm receiving a lot of customers from both two countries, Malawi and Zambia. It's because of the new one border stop which has come and making people easy to move.
Kwa hivyo nilipojiunga huku CRDB, Malkia account nikachukua mkopo, kwa hiyo nikaongezea kwenye mtaji. Nilianza kidogo kidogo, sikuwa nilianza kukopa kidogo, nikimaliza naongeza. Kwa hiyo biashara ikawa kubwa.
Le projet d'alimentation de la ville de Zagora, d'Agdez et de toutes les communes avoisinantes à partir du barrage d'Agdez a été parmi les grands projets structurants. Donc nous sommes fiers de sa réalisation. Il va permettre de sécuriser l'approvisionnement pour une population de 300 000 habitants.
These first 60 years of successful, transformative and impactful investments by the African Development Bank are only a beginning. Now is the time to leverage the successes and lessons of the past. Now is the time to our vision. And now is the time for even greater ambition to bring about the transformative change Africa needs. Together, we can make it happen. So, welcome to the 2024 African Development Bank Group's annual meetings as we celebrate 60 years of collective, transformative and visionary development leadership and transformative solutions as we lock hands together to create a better future for all Africans.
Avec votre soutien, le groupe de la Banque africaine de développement continuera à susciter l'espoir, à innover, à diriger et à utiliser sa position de première institution financière d'Afrique pour accélérer le développement de l'Afrique.
Isn't that wonderful? May I welcome His Excellency President Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, who has just arrived. Welcome, Excellency. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming. They have given him so many names. Some call him the evangelist in chief, and others call him the optimist in chief. The president of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi A. Adesina, who apparently is the AAA president of a AAA bank. Welcome, Mr. President.
Thank you, Secretary General. Your Excellency, Dr. William Samuel Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, and our host. And I was thinking about how to really get your try to right this morning. Congratulations on your trip to the United States, which was a wonderful state visit you had, but you came back with a new title. And it was called by President Biden, the major non-NATO ally. So you're going to start putting that behind your name, Mr. President. Thank you for welcoming us to Kenya. Your Excellency, Denis Sassou Nguesso, President of the Republic of Congo. Your Excellency, Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda. Your Excellency, Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, President of the Republic of Zimbabwe. Your Excellency Mohamed Yunus Al-Menfi, President of the Presidency Council of the Government of the National Unity of the State of Libya. Your Excellency Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud, President of the Federal Republic of Somalia. Your Excellency Musa Faki, my dear brother, Chairperson of the African Union Commission. Your Excellency Prosper Bozum Mbaza, Vice President of the Republic of Burundi, representing His Excellency President Evariste Ndayishimiye. Your Excellency Sarah Kungogelwa Amandila, Prime Minister of the Republic of Namibia, representing His Excellency President Nangolo Umumba. Your Excellency Ali Lamine Zain, Prime Minister of the Republic of Niger and a former staff of the African Development Bank. Your Excellency Alexandre Baro-Chambrier, Vice Prime Minister of the Republic of Gabon. Your Excellencies representing heads of state and government. Your Excellency Joachim Chissano, former President of the Republic of Mozambique. Professor Njuguna Ndungu, Cabinet Secretary of the Treasury of Kenya and Chairman of the Board of Governors of the African Development Bank Group. Your Excellency, I have two friends here because you asked us to work together globally. I'm delighted to be joined here by two of my colleagues that are presidents of multilateral development banks. Your Excellency, Dr. Mohammed Sulaiman Al-Jazar, President and Chairman of the Islamic Development Bank Group, and His Excellency Jean Lukun, President of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Banks. I'm joined by all my colleagues from African financial institutions and our partners, honorable heads of national institutions of the Republic of Kenya, my dear honorable governors of the African Development Bank Group, cabinet secretaries, excellencies, heads of diplomatic missions, my executive directors, my senior management and staff, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, my beautiful darling wife, Grace, my #1 supporter, counselor, and friend. Thank you. Good morning. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the 2024 annual meetings of the African Development Bank Group. These annual meetings take on a special nature this year because it marks the 60th anniversary of the establishment of the African Development Bank Group. We are delighted that you all are able to join us on this auspicious occasion. I wish to thank His Excellency President William Ruto for accepting to host these annual meetings in this beautiful country of Kenya and the Sunshine City of Nairobi. I wish to thank you all our heads of state and government for making time to join us for this special occasion. We are truly delighted that all our shareholders are here, represented by our dear governors from all of our shareholder countries. Your collective support, advocacy, and financial commitments to the African Development Bank Group make us who we are and afford us the opportunity to serve as Africa's premier financial institution. We are inspired by the vision of our founding fathers and mindful of our position and the role within the global financial architecture, as well as the responsibility placed on us by the African Union to mobilize financing for Africa's development. We carry the hopes and the aspirations of Africa in our institutional genes and in our corporate soul. As we gather today, we do so against the backdrop of major global challenges, including heightened geopolitical tensions, the disruption of global value chains, rising food and energy prices, increasing debt service payments, and, of course, climate change. The devastating effects of climate change are everywhere, from droughts to floods, from cyclones to unpredictable weather patterns, with loss of lives and property, and enormous fiscal costs to countries. May I please kindly request that we all stand to observe a moment of silence in honor of those who lost their lives during the recent floods in Kenya and all other countries who have been devastated by the effects of the climate change they did not cause or even know about. Your Excellencies, please. Thank you very much. May their souls rest in peace. Even as we remember them, we must be resolute about taking decisive action to build more climate-resilient economies. And that's why I applaud President Ruto for hosting the landmark Africa Climate Summit right here in Kenya, where we collectively agreed to put Africa at the heart of global climate change efforts, especially climate adaptation. Your Excellencies, African economies are showing great resilience despite the challenges posed by climate change, geopolitical tensions, global inflation, and rising debt, among others. The African Development Bank projects that Africa's real GDP growth will rise from 3.1% in 2023 to 3.7% in 2024 and 4.3% in 2025. Importantly, despite these headwinds, more than half, and that is 31 countries, achieved higher real GDP growth rates in 2023 than in 2022. And most importantly, 10 African countries are among the 20 fastest growing economies in the world. I think we've done well against the headwinds. I think we deserve a clap for Africa. The African Development Bank Group strongly supports African economies. In 2023, our financing totaled $10 billion across all of our high five priorities: to light up and power Africa, to feed Africa, to industrialize Africa, to integrate Africa, and to improve the quality of life of the people of Africa. These high fives, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, are the accelerators of Africa's development. The bottom line is that the African Development Bank delivers. Since we launched these high fives in 2016, our financing has impacted the lives of over 400 million people. Last year, our work has significant impact across the continent, with 11 million farmers provided with access to improved agricultural technologies, 8 million people provided with access to new sanitation services, 3.5 million people with access to improved transport, 2.8 million people provided with better health services, 1 million people provided with access to clean water, and over 443,000 enterprises provided with access to finance. The African Development Bank is highly responsive. When the Russian war in Ukraine erupted, it posed tremendous food security risks to Africa. To forestall a crisis, the bank launched a $1.5 billion emergency food production facility. to rapidly support African countries in their ambition to reduce food dependency over a 2-year period. As of April 2024, we have approved loans and grants of $1.496, to be precise, billion for this emergency food production in 35 countries. We also got help and support from our shareholders, $323 million of additional support from the government of Japan, the government of the United States, Norway, Germany, and the Netherlands. We have therefore fully committed $1.8 billion to 35 countries. I am pleased to report, Your Excellencies, dear governors, that we have reached 10.5 million farmers and supported the production of 26 million metric tons of food, valued at $10.79 billion, or 90% of our target market value, and we still have about 2 seasons to go. Your Excellencies, dear governors, the African Development Bank is a strategic partner of choice, trusted by countries. Right here in Kenya, when I came to see His Excellency President Ruto, he talked about our support making a huge difference at the State House. As he mentioned to me, President Ruto mentioned to me that when I visited, he says, thanks to the African Development Bank, we increased the number of households in Kenya that have access to connectivity to electricity from 2.5 million to 10 million by 2023. Thank you for that testimony, Your Excellency, Mr. President. On one of my trips to a village where the bank supported last-mile connectivity for low-income households, a lady whose name was Grace, and that's not Grace, my wife, because she's also Grace, told us about the impact of our work. When asked if she knows Dr. Adeshina as I was walking in front of her, she said no. When asked if she was aware that the African Development Bank, as President Ruto was saying, financed the project, she said no. All I know is we once were in darkness, now we have light. Our impact is felt where it matters most, in the lives of the people we serve day and night. The African Development Bank has consistently invested in infrastructure. In the past 9 years, we have invested over $50 billion in infrastructure projects on the continent, by far the largest investment of any multilateral development bank or institution. And the impacts are visible. We are raising $3.2 billion for the East Africa Standard Gauge Railway connecting Tanzania, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Burundi. We are providing $500 million towards the development of the Lobito Corridor to link Zambia, Angola, and the DRC. We are mobilizing $375 million for financing the railway linking Nigeria to Niger Republic. We are mobilizing $3.5 billion to $5 billion towards the development of the Liberty Corridor that will